corrections in the minutes of January 12th?
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented on January 12th, presented by the clerk.
Councilor Trombley made a motion that the minutes of the January 12th regular town board or organizational town board meeting be approved as submitted by the town clerk, seconded by Councilor Devens. Roll call. Councilor Rovers?
Yes.
Councilor Eagle?
Yes.
Councilor Devens?
Yes.
Councilor Trombley?
Yes.
Supervisor Dino?
Yes. Has everybody seen the town clerk and supervisor's report? Okay. Now we're going to open the meeting to the public, but I think there's different groups here representing different things. Get a spokesman for your group. We're not going to listen to 100 people say the same thing over and over. We have town business to conduct. So pick yourself up a spokesman that address whatever group you represent to the public right now. So start in. We're not going to listen to a whole pile of people. Are you going to be the spokesman, Dan?
Well, I guess.
Okay, then we will listen to Dan, not 100 people. Because we have other things to do. Go ahead, Dan. Your pleasure.
My name's Dan Duffina. Had my wife write this up so I didn't go off on a tangent and start swearing or something. Okay, I live in the town of Easement, the town line of Chazy. I pay land taxes in Easement, school taxes in Chazy. I was born and raised in Chazy and have many relatives and friends here. What happens in Chazy is a great concern to me. It started for me about the first of the year. I heard heavy equipment at my neighbor's pit behind me, and at the time thought nothing of it. About 2 weeks later, I was informed by another neighbor on the other side of him what was going on. Basically, they were dumping that enviro compost back there. As soon as I heard that, I called up the town of Easement and told them what was going on. They immediately issued an appearance ticket to the landowner, and it was Wednesday, 2 weeks ago, from this Wednesday, court took place. Lawyers screwed up, so it was postponed for 2 weeks, and in those 2 weeks, these guys are dumping just as fast as they can dump in there. It's We Care Trucking, as far as I know. And it was postponed for 2 weeks, like I said, and they're dumping as fast as they can. I've been asking for help in all kinds of directions, town of Easement, elected officials, environmental group, private citizens, many of them who didn't realize what was going on in the first place. I knew one way to do it, and that was to call the media so I could get people more involved and realize what was going on with this viral stuff in Easement anyways. That started to work. I discovered, what I had discovered is City of Plattsburgh owns a plant, leased to U.S. Filter, who operates it, in turn who has We Care Trucking do the actual trucking of the products. Clinton County's name is on the facility, and a permit was issued to Clinton County to operate or produce this product there. As far as the DEC is concerned, and I've talked to these guys and so many others have, that this human sludge has gone through a compost process where the pathogens and other contaminants are so small it poses no health risk. That I think is debatable. Much of the human sludge also I found out, and it was quite surprising to me, comes from out of state and around New York State. This is the only way to make the plant profitable, by having towns and cities pay to have the stuff hauled away. And when the finished compost is processed, it has to be stockpiled. And I think what's going on there is they ran out of room. It's wintertime, stuff like that, so they have to find different sites. And well, that's what they found in Beavertown, Moores and Mineville so far, and there's a few rumors going around. There's a few other places in Clinton County that are being seen and dumped on. The pile in Beavertown is on gravel with no water and irrigation ditches leading to state land and Lake Champlain. Besides that, there's a smell issue, which is I'm involved in, which is coming from the pile, and this is no small pile. I would safely say that there's at least 1,000 tons of that stuff there, and that's probably a low estimate. It doesn't take long to get something like that piled up in that amount, with that amount. And now they're not just coming in with tandems, they're coming in with the tractor trailer dumps there. Some of the farmers I've talked to, you know, it's a good deal money-wise, but, and that's questionable too, because I'm finding out there's not really a value to this stuff. One, as a liming agent, which the agricultural department has taken away that certification because they found it not to have enough lime to really do anything. And through some other conversations, 1 ton of lime dust is equal to about 4 tons of this environment, which is much more labor intensive to spread because of the machinery and the manpower and all that kind of stuff. The fertilizing quality, I guess that's a questionable value too. And basically, what I'm getting out of it, and I can't argue with it there, basically it's a good soil conditioner. It makes it loomier or whatever, and more aerated or whatever that does. And the safety part of it, spreading it over farmland and stuff like that, I have a question with that, but I can't say anything because I'm not a chemist or anything like that. I'm sure there's, you know, there's trace elements in there of whatever started out in it, but you know, I'm not a chemist, so I can't really say too much about that. What I found out too from some farmers that the stability of this product was always changing, so they can never count on the same product every time they got it from these guys. That's what happens when you get human sludge from different cities. It's always different from wherever you go, you know, it's not going to be the same. And so that part was in question too. It was never the same what they were getting. And and I'm finding now that with all this PR going around in public relations about this stuff, that a lot of farmers don't even want to touch it. They don't want to see it on their land. They want nothing to do with it anymore. And what happens to it now? Well, I guess it gets stockpiled, you know, because the plant is still producing it, and they got to get rid of it somehow. And if there's no way to buy it, I don't know what else they're going to do with it. All they're doing now is basically dumping and running. They go from town to town. You know, they get chased out of one town and go to the next town. But each time they do that, they get rid of 1,000 tons or more. You know, so that stuff has been going on. What I'd like to see done is the Clinton County legislator take more aggressive action to resolve this issue. After all, their name is on the plant, and they got the permit for it. Also, what I want to see is the dumping stopped in Clinton County and the removal of Enviro from the towns of Easement and Moores. I'm not asking them to shut down the plant, but I want them to take care of our own waste, not waste from other states and outlying areas. Disposal of Enviro needs to be done in a proper manner with public discussion and safeguards. Possibility of landfill sites such as Franklin County. I just don't want this to happen. I don't let what happened to Easement happen here in Chazy. But you know, this is, it's also concerning Chazy people because that stuff is so close to the town line that the smell issue is getting, you know, it doesn't know its town line does though. And I live in Ingerham and my lawn is the line. And it's, you know, other people from Chazy have been calling me up and stuff like that, letting me know what's going on. So I guess now it is in Chazy as far as the air goes. And, you know, that's something that, people are concerned about. And also, even if you guys do pass a moratorium on this stuff, I found that those guys, they don't follow the rules too well, you know? And I tell the people around here that if you ever see big trucks going in, or heavy equipment doing things that you kind of have a question with, I would report to somebody because these guys, you know, I thought they were taking out gravel from this pit for 2 weeks. And up in Moores, they thought that they were just putting in a road, you know, just to get to the land or something like that. Next thing we know, we've got 1,000 tons of Enviro, you know, composted human waste there. And we can't seem to stop them or get rid of it right at this moment anyway. I'm not going to give up. And I don't want to see this happen to Chazy. You know, I got a lot of friends and relatives here, like I say. And it's an awful thing to have to go through. Here's a letter I wrote to Dan Stewart. Actually, we've been friends for quite a while, and this is basically man-to-man, not politician to private citizens. I basically said, I'm sure you've heard about what was going on around here. I'm very upset about the enviro stockpile on here. Now when I go outside, there's an odor I will smell for the rest of my time here. I've made my little neck of the woods a nice place for Claire and I to take walks and enjoy a little peace and serenity. Also, we have brothers and sisters and kids, plus the neighborhood kids down there. This is right by this pile, for sleep house picnic and paintball. Just started that up. It's quite an interesting sport. Now with this enviro there, it takes away a part of our little neck of the woods. I have worked on farms that I've used this, and I think it's a great use for it as long as it is safe. It doesn't smell like a rose, but neither does manure, but in a day or two, the odor is gone. With this operation, it will be there for 365 days a year. And when enviro is brought to the farmers, the stockpile will be lowered and more will be brought in. So it'll be a constant thing. When Claire and I retire, I was going to build on top of the hill overlooking a pond in our little neck of the woods. With the pile of enviro there, my dream is gone. Basically, you guys, your dreams don't have to be taken away like that. So, you know, I hope somebody does something about it, and just be vigilant and watch these guys, because they're all over the place, and their trucks aren't marked, but they're out there. They're looking for other places. So keep your eyes open. Tell somebody when you see something strange going on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have other groups here?
Well, we wanted to add to that because we're from Chazy. I'm Christine Reynolds. I live right on the Reynolds Road, so I'm directly affected by this. I want to know what's going to happen to our well water. If anybody did an environmental impact study before they started dumping this stuff, and I believe that it's required by law, and we haven't seen one yet. I mean, this is tonnage, lots of it. It will affect us eventually, and my thing is, what are you going to do about our wells when they are affected?
Do you know what your well is like now?
Yes.
Let me test your well now.
Yes,
because
our well
you
is
come back in
perfect.
6 months, say you
It
say.
has been tested, it's
And I
perfect.
think everybody's concerned about the well, need to have that on record.
And you're talking Riley Brook. Riley Brook goes right down into the lake. All of these fields are tiled, so this stuff is going to go right into the lake. You need to be concerned about your environment, and it doesn't seem like they're very concerned. You've got PCBs in this stuff. Scientists are aghast about this. My brother is an environmental scientist from Poughkeepsie. He's just livid. So you need to talk to other people besides this enviro. Thank you.
George, if I may, for a second, address this group.
Give us a whole scoop on it.
Well, my name is Joe Giroux, and I am the county legislator for this area. And just today, I've taken a little different approach to this. Those of you who were at the meeting we had last Wednesday at the legislative meeting, we talked about this. Anna Hoxley was there, and we addressed it with the county. I'm probably more frustrated than the rest of you are because it's so slow. It's unbelievable. There's laws and they just do away with them. We're trying to get the Board of Health involved. Those of you who live around there, I was told today by John Canoza that water samples will be taken of your wells very shortly so that we have a baseline to go from. And from there, we'll monitor again when we have spring runoffs. We understand Riley Brook was there. One of the health officers who went there 2 days ago and looked at the site. He will monitor it weekly. Not that that'll help, but at least we're going at different angles. If flies should happen to come in the spring, they will have to take care of that. That will be a big concern because it will start smelling and flies will come. And the runoff in the brook is a huge concern. It says that this stuff is supposed to be, if a farmer wants it, he brings it to your farm, and you take the amount that you need, not the amount that it takes to cover the whole county. And that it's illegal what he's doing, according to the Board of Health. The DEC regulations so far have said that this stuff is perfect. I mean, we can't just overrule every agency in the county. The county is looking at it. Today, John Rolfe, the city engineer, called. We are setting a meeting for hopefully next Friday to go over them with the plans, but I'm sure things aren't going to change because the city thinks that they're doing the right thing. So I'm not very hopeful of that meeting, but I am hopeful by monitoring it and watching the Board of Health that something will happen from that. Other than that, I think by being vocal maybe you can run them out of town. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but they're not listening. They just are not listening. They just say one thing and they do just the opposite. So that's we're having a lot of trouble with. We thought they'd go to court last Wednesday or the Wednesday before that, and they're still dumping there. So we haven't been able to stop that yet. The town hasn't anyway. So as a county, I'm trying my best. If you call other legislators and saying that you're having problems with it, it's more support than I have. I have no problems with that. But that's where I'd like to tell you where we are on that as far as the county is.
Well, keep us informed, Bill.
Yep.
If you keep us informed of everything's happening and that,
Yep.
so that we would know that's what action we need to.
But I think if you take what the county's trying to say, he wants all the towns to be prepared for this. That a lot of towns don't. Beaver Town happened to have an ordinance. Moores did not. So by the time you get an ordinance in place, it could take a month or two. And, you know, so it takes time. And I'm really concerned that each town, you don't have to set an ordinance every time somebody comes through town. You'll be writing an ordinance the rest of your life, you know, and that's a little bit of a concern. And so I'm looking to try to help as a county, but really it is a town issue, but we are trying to help whatever way we can in regards. So.
Very good. You got any other news while you're up? You got the floor?
You always want to hear about sales tax. It's for the first month. It's still going up, George. It's a little bit ahead of schedule, so.
Good.
Other than that, no, I don't right now.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Okay, now we've got, I think there's another group on something else here. Is it is conservation easement or whatever it is?
Yes.
Are you a spokesman?
Partly, yes.
I'm not going to listen to Tim.
I understand
A
you.
couple of you guys want to talk, all right, but we're not going to be all night listening to the same thing.
Thank you.
Okay, have the floor. You're Mr. Favreau?
Yes, the sludge issue is done at this point. I didn't know if somebody else was going to speak on that. But we are. Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, my name is Bill Favreau. I'm here representing Rover's Farm, Inc., and I'm here to ask your support and approval of a motion or resolution, however you want to do it, but supporting the county's application to the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets for funding to purchase development rights on agricultural lands in this community. At the outset, if I could, Supervisor Dino, this map, and I don't want to stand in front of people, if I just explain what the project is about. Essentially, and all of the board members should have a map that's exactly like this, except in a reduced scale. And it's essentially a tax map. But the orange area outlines all of the property owned by Rover's Farm within the bounds of the town of Chazy, excuse me. The green area, and when we talk about the purchase of development rights, the only area it would affect of Rover's Farm is this green area, the area that's been scaled out in green. What's important about that, I think, and is important perhaps to the members of this town board and other members in attendance at this meeting, that this area, all of the area located west of Stetson Road, is specifically excluded from this. Rover's Farms did not even put in an application or even add that as part of it, understanding that there may be certain sentiments or certain concerns in this town that felt we want to have lands available for development. If you look at that farm property, the area that could handle any kind of development or potential development would be this area located west of Stetson Road. A certain portion located along the east bounds of Route 9 is commercial. There's a large stretch of land along Saracen. And then, most importantly, perhaps, is the southwest corner of that land, which actually abuts what I suppose is called the hamlet of Chazy. All of that would be unrestricted, would remain available for development commercially, residential, whatever. The only area we're talking about is this area east of Stetson Road, west of Lakeshore Road. That's the area that would be affected by this purchase of state development by the state of development rights. When you look at this project, this is an agricultural community. If you look back in 1991, and I know that somebody say, well, that's 13 years ago. Well, there hasn't been a comprehensive land use study like that in this town in any more recent time. And if you read that report, it was a significant report. It's some 80 pages. But as you go through this report, it talks about primarily, and prior to preparing this report, I should mention, and in 1990 they conducted a town-wide survey of its residents. And one of the primary objectives recognized by citizens of this community was to retain, promote agricultural uses and operations throughout the town. And it was done partially by the enactment of some zoning ordinance following the report in '91. And now's an opportunity to really carry out that objective, that goal that was recognized in this. In addition to preserving agricultural uses and operations and preserving lands for that, this report also, secondarily perhaps, because there are a lot of reports about how important agriculture is to this community, and I don't even think that can be questioned. But the next part they mentioned is to protect the viewshed of Lake Champlain, promote open spaces, and protect the viewshed of Lake Champlain. If you look at this piece of land, I don't believe you'll find another one anywhere within the town that best accomplishes both of those goals. It's prime agricultural land, and it is excellent to protect the viewshed of Lake Champlain. It accomplishes both of those goals recognized by this town in 1991. And you don't have to go that far back. You can go back to December. I think it was December 15th, just last year, when the town planning board took up this very issue. And they said, this is something we would promote, and I believe they submitted this recommendation to this town board to say, we support the purchase of the development rights on that piece of land. The legacy, I think, of the town of Chazy agriculturally falls a lot from Minor. One of his greatest things certainly was education and what he did for the school system in this town. But it probably more important was what he did for agriculture. If you look at this piece of land, this was part of Minor's farm operation in 1990. When he bought this land in 1990, that entire parcel was tiled. There are, for all of you I'm sure are familiar with it, there are pump stations, 2 of which are located on this land. So there's historical significance to this parcel as well. Not only the agricultural use and operation, but historical significance to those pump stations, and they're active today. In addition to that, he did it for both, by the way, for those of you who don't know, I just learned this a little while ago. He did it both for irrigation as well as drainage, because in addition to constructing the pump houses, he had also constructed a dike all along the bounds of Lake Champlain and the Little Chazy River to protect the flooding that has in more recent years, because of the dike being broken, infiltrated that area. So again, I think it has huge historical significance as well. I have Lance Rover here from Rover's Farms, if there are questions. I have James Bushy here from Vermont, who acts as a technical and planning consultant to the farm of Bordeaux Brothers, Inc. We also have Rodney Brown from the County Planning Department, who can talk about some more of the technical aspects of this. And I would, with your permission, Mr. Supervisor, yield the floor to him in a minute. But in the end, I submit to you that a vote in support of this type of application is a vote for agriculture, to support its use, agricultural uses and operations in this town, and to support the agricultural legacy of this town. A vote against it is a vote against farmers, the farm legacy, the agricultural legacy of this community, and I think it sends the wrong messages to our farmers. I'd like to yield the floor to our county planning. Rodney?
Good evening. At this time, I'd like to introduce Ken Grudens from New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets. Mr. Grudens is the manager of the Farmland Protection Program with New York State Ag and Markets, and that's the department that oversees and operates the Purchase Development Rights Program, grant program that is issued here. Ken, you have some handouts that you'd like me to...
Thanks for having me. Yeah, my name is Ken Grudens. I'm with the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets. I'm going to just walk up to the map up here so everyone can... Rodney is handing out, I don't know if I have enough for everyone, maybe a couple can share in them. I think I have about 50 copies there, but I just want to take a few minutes, I won't overdo it here, to talk a little bit about the state's farmland protection program. And you can follow along with the handouts that are getting passed out to the board here first, and then out to the crowd here today. I understand there's a record for a number of people who went to a meeting here. Anyway, I guess there's a basic question. That is, what is the purchase and development rights? And what it is sometimes called PDR, short for purchase and development rights. And what it really is payment for extinguishment of development rights on a farm, in this case for farmland protection. Essentially what it is removal of the non-farm development rights, albeit residential, commercial, industrial rights that would normally go with the property. It's not a transfer of development rights. These development rights that are removed from a farm aren't transferred to some other county or some other town in a county. They're extinguished forever in perpetuity. And the tool that's used for that is called a conservation easement, typically, or sometimes a deed of development rights. This is a legal document that's, again, a deed. And under this legal document, it lays out what can not be built or developed on that property and what can be. And of course, an agricultural easement is going to be one that's going to be friendly to farming and to agricultural uses. The property is still owned by the farm owner, still pays the taxes on it. It can be sold, leased, willed, etc., mortgaged. Again, these easements are in perpetuity. So I just want to take a minute to talk about, well, why PDR? Why purchase development rights on farmland? And for those of you who have the sheet in front of you, see there's a list of different reasons. But I'm just going to talk about a couple of them. And that is the first one, which says a lower cost of services. There's been a whole series of studies done across the state. Too many to really even speak of, but if you're interested in taking a look at the results of some of these studies, you can go on to the American Farmland Trust website. It's farmland.org, and read more about these. But there are essentially studies that have shown that the cost of services to farmland versus the cost of services to residents versus what that farmer or farm owner or residents pay. And it's been pretty typically shown that for every dollar of taxes that a farm owner pays, depending on the size of the farm, it may vary a bit, but they're only receiving about 40, maybe 50 cents or so in services. And for typical residents, and that can vary too depending on the size of the residence, but it's shown that typically that for every residents that pays taxes, $1 in taxes, they receive $1.60 in services. So it's been shown that residential development does not lower your tax base. It doesn't lower your taxes per se, whereas farmland does. And that's a big reason for a community to look at why PDR, because you're protecting that farm. You know that farm's going to be kept from development in the future, and you know that your taxes will be a little more stabilized. Other reasons, which I'll just list for those of you who don't have the sheet, is that, of course, it protects farmland and the associated open space, and the wildlife habitat that goes with that, better water quality in normal farming operating conditions, certainly a connection to your rural roots, which you may say, well, of course, this is a rural community, but a lot of communities that have developed beyond just some development or developments here or there have come to realize that they've lost that connection, that they're no longer rural, and it also happened without them realizing it. The benefits of PDR are also again, that the land is privately maintained and owned. It's a voluntary program. No one's forcing a farm owner to participate. Again, as you know, the Rover's Farm and a couple other farms were part of an application through the county, through Rodney's shop, to the state to purchase the development rights, and we provide 75% of the total costs of what the value of the development rights are. This is an opportunity for farmers who perhaps need to capitalize on some of their asset, their land, without having to sell that land for development or be rid of the farm. Funding comes again from the state in many cases. There's also federal programs and sometimes private funding and county level and town level funding as well. To date, we've awarded $68 million across the state since 1996 to protect about 136 farms in 32 municipalities on about 28,000 acres. That includes the awards that were made this past January, including the 1,600 acres that were awarded to the Rover's Farm, 900 acres, again, in this green area, approximately 900, and the other 700 up in the town of Champlain. It's a fairly competitive program, and we're actually pleased to say that the $1.98 million that we awarded to the county to purchase the development right in the 1,600 acres was our top-ranked farm, our top-ranked property in this round. And that's in a round where we had $70 million requested and $12 million that we had to award and give out. Again, proposals can come from a county, as they did in this case, or in some cases, towns themselves make proposals directly to the state in this program as well. Quick bit on the ranking criteria, and then I'll leave the floor to whomever else might be speaking on this issue. The ranking criteria, we have a series of criteria we look at to determine which farms get funded. And there are three what we call legislative criteria. And those three criteria that stem from the legislation that was created for this program are that the program that's proposed will preserve viable agriculture. And that means a lot of things. It means good soils, well-tiled, well-managed, highly productive lands that are part of a farming region, not just the last vestige of a farm, perhaps in a community, but in a real farming area where there's a likelihood for succession of that farm, even without state funding. And that's a lot of what viable farming is about. The second criteria is that the property is facing some kind of significant development pressure. And that development pressure can come in various forms, but what we saw from the proposal we received is that this area, Chazy and Champlain, is right outside of Plattsburgh, which is a fairly strong economic development community. There's a lot of various different types of growth, whether it be manufacturing or residences or so on. And the overall evidence pointed to the fact that there is a fair amount of development pressure in this area. The last is that the property provide a buffer to a public natural resource. And for example, the fact that the property is right next to and right near Lake Champlain is one of those types of resources. So again, based on the criteria, this proposal did very well, and I'll leave it at that. I guess can I answer a couple of questions if there are any questions here at all, sir?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
I'm talking about buffer to Lake Champlain. How come you didn't put the property near Lake Champlain? That's available.
This purple area here.
Yeah, how come you didn't put that in?
It wasn't part of the proposal. It wasn't part of the proposal. So what we do is we look at the proposals that come in, and then we look at the land that's being
But
proposed.
you keep mentioning the buffer to Lake Champlain, but
Sure.
that's available to Heights.
Well, maybe it's a possibility that that part of the property could come in the future. We certainly are open to it.
That's just a question.
But, very good. Any other
Go ahead,
questions?
Somebody, we're not going to take 50 questions.
Wouldn't the-
Julia's got a
Maybe
question,
two
go
questions.
ahead.
Wouldn't the land to the left of the Lakeshore Road provide a buffer? To the left of the Lakeshore Road?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it
Wouldn't that
does.
provide a buffer below also, to some degree?
To below here, I'm sorry.
No, right at the bottom of it, the green part, right there.
Well, I'm not highly familiar with the intricate lines of the property here, but what we're looking for is by protecting a property like this in the green, and whether you're on the lake shore or not, you are essentially creating a buffer, because if this whole area was covered in residences, the runoff and such into the lake would be so much greater than if it was a farm, so that's.
So that
What?
is a buffer.
Yes. a buffer.
What if I decide to buy that and build condos that are 150 feet high from where I live, back on the edge, Sarashon Road,
Mhm. Okay.
Bell Road, I couldn't see the lake anymore. Oh, by the way, Dutch, there's a few trees there you should cut to block my view.
Well, I don't want to take this to the idea, but when we say
No, no,
buffer,
I'm just
when we say
asking
a
a
buffer
question.
to natural resources, we mean the physical protection of those, of the lake, not necessarily the view. It's not really about view shed, it's about water quality.
Well, I've heard the view shed quite a few times so far tonight.
I got a question. In your purchases of land throughout New York State, have you put smaller parcels, or have you gone after just large parcels?
No, we've done smaller parcels. I mean, it depends on the region. This
What
is
do
a
you
region
call
of
small?
larger parcels. On eastern Long Island, for instance, out in eastern Suffolk County, the typical farm size is only 20 or 50 acres. And yet they protected 7,000 or 8,000 acres out there, one little farm at a time. So it kind of depends on the region.
What about when you get in this region?
In this region, I think we were fairly impressed with the size of the parcels. I mean, this is by far the largest parcel that we will have ever protected.
So in the future, would smaller farms have an equal chance
Yes,
versus a large
whether it
farm?
be a 200 acre or a 400 acre, yes, absolutely. Especially with what was, in this case, would be sort of an anchor property in a farming region already protected. But yes, I mean, the average farm size in New York State is 200 acres. So we protect a lot more 200 acre farms, and certainly we recognize that there are smaller farms around this farm. And so if the county came back next year, let's say, we would certainly consider smaller farms, absolutely.
No, I'm talking about when you come in this area. I can understand when you
absolutely.
get near a
Yes.
metropolitan area, your parcels are going to be small.
The answer is yes, in this area. I guess I'll sit down now and let that.
George, can I just make a couple remarks? This guy stole most of my thunder and covered a lot of what I would have covered. And I apologize for whoever's behind me, but I don't think I can stand anywhere in this room without having somebody behind me. The award that was made, I believe, was a gift to the town of Chazy. And I know that many other municipalities and counties in New York State view it that way. There are many other counties where development pressure has proceeded further than it has here, and this program is not enough. The amount of money in this program is not sufficient to protect the remaining farmland in some of the other areas, and they have voluntarily raised funds themselves, usually from tax revenues. I know that Saratoga County and several municipalities on Long Island and out the Rochester area in Monroe County, in the rural part of Monroe County, have implemented programs locally to protect land through the purchase of development rights. And I talked to some of the folks from those programs, and they said that 15, 20 years ago, they probably would have laughed at such programs because they never believed that they'd ever get to the point where they had to spend money to protect farmland. And I hear some of it in Chazy that people believe it's always going to be farmland. You know, the fact is, in Chazy, there is growth occurring. There was far more farmland in Chazy at the turn of the century than there is today. And as some of the figures that I think Bill talked about, there was more farmland in 1970 than there is today. Chazy's losing their farmland. Fact is, Chazy's not losing their farmland nearly as quickly as some of the other areas in Clinton County. Peru is losing it much faster, but Chazy's growing and it's developing. There has been 90 new houses in the last 4 years in Chazy. Population grew 7.5%. It's one of the fastest growing towns in Clinton County. So development is occurring. The character of the town is changing. This program is one of the best programs that I know of to protect agriculture for the long term. Much was made about the piece on the other side of the Lake Shore Road. I think Ag and Markets would have loved that was in, but this is a voluntary program. they're not requiring farmers to put any piece of property in. They judge, the state judges what applications are before them and what are not. There is, in the town of Champlain, there is a fairly large parcel that is directly adjacent to Lake Champlain that is in, and the town of Champlain has approved the program up there, so that will be protected. The other thing is, agriculture is one of the major local economies in Clinton County. Tourism is large. There is individual large economies. Agriculture is a large one that I think a lot of people take for granted, and they don't really think about. And slowly, farmland is being lost. The impetus for this program nationwide, and New York State's not the only the only state that has this program. In fact, New York State probably got into the game a little late. I think Ken would probably agree with me on that. There have been purchase of development rights programs in other states for 10 to 15 years, in Massachusetts and Vermont and some other states. The impetus always is the loss of farmland. There's been a loss of farmland nationwide, in the state, in Clinton County, and in most of the towns in Clinton County. The fact is, we're losing farmland. This program is unparalleled in its ability to protect farmland. There's no program out there. In fact, there are many programs that profess to protect farmland and fail. This one is the only program that will ensure that the farmland will be protected for future generations. In Chazy, you're so fortunate. You have beautiful scenic views. You have rolling hills and farmland. This is, not only is it good for the local economy, this is a benefit for all of the residents that you don't have to pay for. You take it for granted that it's always going to be there. The fact that it's not, and I think that the development that's going on in Chazy right now attests to the fact that the character of your town is changing. I guess in summation, I strongly believe that the PDR program is a wise one. It's a wise investment in the town of Chazy. There's no cost to the town for this program. There's no cost to the county for this program. All of the funding is either from the state or a donation by the farmer. I think it's in the best interest of the town of Chazy, and I think that's backed up by the survey that was done for your town's comprehensive plan. I hope that the board agrees with this point of view, and I urge them to approve it tonight and allow this program to continue in the town. If you're not predisposed to allow other people to speak, I think it would be interesting to see a show of hands of the people who agree that this would be a good program for the town. Show of hands.
Right here.
Thank you.
I have one question. Can I ask the question? Oh, by the way, my name is Mike Jerry. You just said it won't cost me anything. That's the only reason I'm here. You know it, Dutch. What is it going to cost me personally in taxes? It says here, another concern, taxpayer would end up paying 25%. Is that a fact, or is that
That's
false?
just a newspaper.
That's just a newspaper. It's not going to cost me 5 cents?
It's not going to cost you anything in local taxes. Zero.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Hey, Dutch, you remember when I built? When I built, there was one house on the street. Now there's 5. I don't agree with that.
Okay, Rodney, is this about what you got your presentation done? Okay?
That's it for me, George.
There's just one statement I want to make. All this going on, everything you read in the paper, he just brought up, we don't know nothing about it. The state has never told us any property that was chosen for any amount. I find that very unusual. This office has never received a thing from the state.
I guess
So we have to go on what we read in the paper.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I can say to that is that the county made the application to the state, and the state sent a letter of award to the county, and the governor made an announcement, and we would be administering it, the grant. But I think out of courtesy, the county should have at least provided you that.
Just a statement I'm making.
I mean, I talk to you individually.
All we know is when we read the paper, and he just brought up one thing, half of the stuff in the paper is not true. So, okay, that's all. Okay, does anybody else want to speak to the board? There's gotta be something else.
I would.
Okay.
My name is Steve Bayshard, and I own a farm down on Chazy Landing. It's probably the only operating farm on the lake in Clinton County. I view this as an opportunity for this board to support the farmers in our town, probably the largest taxpayers, the largest employees that require the least amount of services. This isn't about the town versus Dutch. It's about the town supporting the farmers in this town. There's probably other farmers in this town that would like to apply for this program. And I think that it's a wonderful opportunity for the board to show support for the farmers in this community. And what the gentleman said from New York State about the tax burden in an agricultural community versus one that's gone through development. 20 years ago, I lived in southern New Hampshire, and I lived in an area that saw just unparalleled development come through from the Boston area in a period of 5 to 6, 7 years. One township next to our town opted not to open their arms to all these people that wanted to build houses in southern New Hampshire. They voted that they would issue 10 building permits per year until they saw fit to expand on that. There are other towns surrounding us that were issuing in the hundreds of building permits per year. I still have some friends down there, and 20 years later, the town that decided not to open its arms to this development has got a tax rate of 20% lower than most of its neighboring towns. So I think that it's a really unique opportunity for the town board to show support for probably its smallest class of citizens that would like this help. We would like to see your support. Thank you.
Okay, again, is there somebody on some other subject? If there isn't, we're closing the meeting to the public. You're welcome to stay till the end, but we got our meeting to conduct.
What do you expect? That would be my
Yes, the only thing I had was from the State of New York Department of Transportation. They're noting that they are scheduling a public hearing here at the Chazy Town Hall on Monday night, March 1st at 7 p.m. That's to determine, or they're seeking the determination that the crossing on Cemetery Street in West Chazy should have a crossing system, the lights and whatnot. There's nothing there now.
So that's November, or
No, March 1st.
March 1st at 7 o'clock. Quite had to tell them more to attend that. As Leo says, it is to put flashing light crossing bars out on Cemetery Street, which I think is the only crossing we got left in the town that isn't protected. You don't have any.
Nope.
few remarks to make from last month's meeting. Sounded like some of that I wasn't a very nice person. It was brought up that I was called, Mr. Sessions was called, about removing snow on Route 9. And I said, we don't do that. Well, I kind of checked into it, and commercial places have to provide off-street parking. They cannot use the street for parking, so I don't know why we were hurting these people's business. I just want to make that clear, because I did look up their applications, and they provided plenty of off-street parking. I just want to make it clear, I'm not trying to put anybody out of business. Another remark was made that I had very poor relations with DOT. That, I don't know where it came from. I've met with DOT in the last 5 years, I don't know how many times, because of the water and sewer. I know they're hard to bargain with, but we always got along. I don't know where that came from.
Excuse me. What does the on-street parking have to do with the snow removal?
Your wife said that you were hurting your business because you didn't have street parking. You don't remember that?
The snow piles were there because of the snow that was left on the sidewalks from the plow. What does that have to do with the parking?
I don't get your point.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
You provided plenty of off-street parking.
We do have plenty of off-street
So
parking.
what are you complaining because they can't stop in front of your place?
There was no complaining about that. The complaint was made about the piles of snow, that the snow came from the sidewalk.
My wife called me and Mr. Sessom and got no result. And it was done right on camera. That's why I'm saying.
And she didn't get any results.
No, because we don't take care of Route 9. Okay? Okay, another one they were brought up, sidewalk workers. I haven't done anything yet because the snow, to get a quote on what it would cost, we got to wait till they can see all the sidewalks. And that's something we could put in the budget for 2005 if people want to. But first of all, we've got to find out what it would cost to hire a contractor to do the sidewalks, and then we would know what the budget. I was just looking at the sidewalk going down underneath the railroad underground. There's quite a project there. This side to where the other side of the bridge, that stow's got to be loaded. You can't load it up. Whoever gets a contract is going to need some pretty good bonding and insurance with the DOT to get that job done. So that's where I am on that. I don't have asked Mr. Coffey to look it up, but he'll be on next. Now, there's one more thing that's coming up. All at once here, people want to know how we determine our water and sewer rates. It's done just like anything else. There's a budget created, and we have so many users, and it's divided up, and that's the way the rate is. Very simple. But if somebody needs more explanation, we will explain it to them. We want it in writing, delivered to the town office, or else mail it. You want to be a water payer if you want water. You want to be a sewer payer if you want a sewer. And right now, Susan takes care of the billing. She takes care of, and also collects the taxes. And she's busy. But if you send in a request in writing, we will get the information out, and we will send you another time, a day and a time to meet with. And we will not negotiate that. So you want to be ready. If you want some information, be ready. And it won't be this month because we're too busy. So those are some of the remarks. There's a lot of stuff going on around town which I'm not happy with. So, but if you guys want to pursue it, go ahead. Pursue it. That's all I got. Anybody else on the board got correspondence? Dutch?
Hello, George. I think what we should do as a board, put a moratorium on any more dumping of sludge or municipal sludge or municipal compost until the town planning board has a chance to look at the wording in the town, planning board for handling and storing municipal sludge in the town of Chazy. And I think we should put a 6-month, moratorium on it until we have the time to, to address that issue.
And Tom, we can't do it unless the planning board goes, right? I don't know, I'm not the...
My name is Tom Dash, and I'm the chairman of the planning board. Already in the town zoning law, to put some people's minds at ease, we have regulation already that prohibits the outside dumping of any sludge, municipal, industrial, sewage, anything that's generated outside of the town is not allowed. The only thing that's allowed is if it's used for agricultural purposes, and that's the problem that we had with the Enviro. But other than that, right now, we cover, if it's not an industrial or an agricultural use, it's not allowed.
But that's what they say it is, it's for agriculture.
Not anymore, they lost their permit.
Well, all I know is in Chazy, we don't want to be faced with what we're faced with in Beatontown. That's all I'm saying.
What we have to do is if in fact, if they've lost their agricultural permits, then it's industrial waste and it's generated outside of the town and it's not allowed.
Well, Jim, is there anything we can legally do tonight, just set a moratorium like that? I don't think so.
Well, first of all, I don't know that it's necessary. Tom has said that it's in our zoning code that sludge is not permitted unless it's for agricultural uses, and he said that this organization has lost its permit. Is that correct?
My understanding is they've lost their agricultural permits now. I'm not positive that, that's just hearsay at this point.
Well, I can find out and see if they have lost it. It wouldn't be necessary. If they have, then perhaps it would.
I think whatever Tom said, that takes care of it for now.
If it's correct, they've lost the agricultural permit, and I can check that out.
Okay, Jim, you're on in it.
Okay, the only thing that actually something that came up last month, and I looked into it to some degree, and this has to do with removing snow from sidewalks and so forth. And last time we passed a resolution that the highway superintendent would have the authority to remove, I believe the wording was snow from any public right-of-way in the town of Chazy if in his judgment it posed some type of danger. And I think there was a pretty strong discussion, and there are a lot of problems, or I shouldn't say problems, it's a difficult situation in the town because of the number of sidewalks and so forth. I talked to the Association of Towns, I talked to the Controller's Office, and anyways, the law on this issue, like unfortunately a lot of laws, is somewhat vague, and I'll just read it. It's in McKinney's Highway Law, Section 140, subsection 18. And these are, I believe, obligations of the highway superintendent, and it says to maintain all sidewalks in the town constructed by the state adjacent to state highways and all sidewalks in the town constructed by the county adjacent to county roads, and when authorized by the town board, which I guess that's what we did last time to some extent, cause the removal of snow therefrom, and the cost thereof shall be paid from the miscellaneous or other town funds. So it would appear that resolution that we passed would certainly provide Jim with the authorization to remove it. And George had mentioned something about, I think it was, getting a quote to see what could be done privately. Now, you wouldn't think this would be such a complicated issue, shoveling a sidewalk, but anyways, it is. It says this was a opinion of the state controller back in 1956, and it said a town may not contract with a private individual to remove snow from town highways, or town sidewalks rather. So, I think that, I guess it would appear, although it's not very clear, and I'll have to check it out a little further, it appears with the resolution we have in place that Jim is authorized and in fact may be obligated to remove the snow. Now, this law doesn't specifically, it says sidewalks constructed by the state adjacent to state highways and all sidewalks in the town constructed by the county. And I believe the town has constructed some of the sidewalks. So anyways, I will continue to look into this matter, but it would appear that the highway superintendent may have an obligation pursuant to a resolution to clear the snow.
We're talking about the sidewalks?
Yep.
In other words, where are you gonna start, Jim, Toyota?
Well,
I got property west of.
Where we wanna start, we wanna know
So
what
that's,
this money.
that's why I say we need a sidewalk district and none of this, we don't have men to go three hamlets in one morning.
anyways,
If we're gonna clean them here, I want mine cleaned West Easy too, and maybe first. It's just as important up there as they are here.
You know, George, I think the whole issue, guys, is you gotta remember, when there's a 3-foot snowstorm, it's kind of a lot to expect private people to shovel the snow off that the state highway department dumps on the sidewalk. And I think in cases like that, when there's a major storm, as time permits, there's nothing wrong with a town loader or town people cleaning the sidewalks that are in the right-of-way. Do we need to be doing it after every 3 inches of snow? Absolutely not, and we can't afford to. But I think when there's a 3 foot of snowfall and it's dangerous and hard for the people to get it out of there, there's nothing wrong with the town assisting to get rid of some of that snow. Some of the people will address it themselves, and there are some that won't. And that's all that I was trying to accomplish. But anyway.
You gotta remember, there's 3 hamlets of sidewalks.
That's all I had to
Get the
say,
first clear.
Going back to what you're saying, that you say on a major snowfall, but you have to take care of the 2-3 inches too. Reason being, it freezes, it gets wet, freezes to the sidewalk, it's harder to come off, fuzzy. So you have to figure out how you're gonna, it builds up after a while.
I think we have to look into the legal aspects of the law to make sure that the town's not gonna get in trouble for clearing the snow. Somebody walking down the sidewalk, slipping, falling, and then suing the town saying that we didn't clean it off right. So I think we better be well protected, that if we do clean it off,
yeah.
that would.
I agree with you, and that's a good point, because usually if you interfere with something, that you can be held liable. But I do think that it does seem to indicate that it is an obligation of the superintendent to clear it. Now, obviously, they don't say if it's 3 inches, you can do it, you know, these things, unfortunately, obviously, God couldn't figure them out in certain instances, but we'll do the best we can.
But you are gonna check on it.
Yeah.
Jim, looks like you're gonna get a lot of new equipment. Is that it?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, Jim, that's it.
Okay.
I think you got something.
Yeah, we brought it up last time about our steam jetty. I got 2 quotes on this. I got one from Steam Jetty itself. The size we need, it's about twice the size they've got down at the sewer plant. The Steam Jetty was $5,990, and this tough one, which is both of them just about the same, was $5,100. And I want to use the money that's in my budget to buy one of these. This tough job, the cheapest.
It's the cheapest one.
Cheapest one. Cheapest one.
That's good. Save the taxpayers all the money you get.
Hey, wait, do you want to get into that taxpayer? I got something I'd lay on you, you probably wouldn't do it. But that's what I want.
So which one you recommending, Jim?
The tough one,
Okay.
yeah.
What's the price?
$5,100.
Can be serviced,
$5,160.
and it can be serviced locally? Or?
Yes, it can be, and that's the reason I like it, because it's got 60.
Who sells them locally? Who sells them here locally?
No.
It's not local.
What is this used for?
So there's nothing else, Jim?
No, that's all I got, I just need a motion on that.
Okay, when we come to resolution, we'll.
That's all I got.
Okay, we all got copies of the resolution, there's very few today. Okay, Bill, you want to?
Okay, the first resolution, it's on the back, it's attached with the planning board minutes in the back of the package. first one is a resolution authorizing payment to town officials going to New York City, the $300 for expenses.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Yep.
Councilor Trombley made the motion to adopt the resolution, seconded by Councilor Rovers. Roll call, Councilor Rovers?
Yes.
Councilor Stevens?
Yes.
Councilor Devon?
Yes.
Councilor Trombley?
Yes.
Supervisor Dean?
Yes.
The second one we have there is a resolution support for grant funding from the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets.
Somebody gonna move it? So I guess somebody wants to do this. That,
Can I ask a question? What does dead mean?
the motion, didn't get us,
Will it come up at another time?
I don't believe so. The motion was put out, nobody made the motion for it, no, there was no second, so it's dead.
So everybody's saying that they don't want that to happen?
We didn't vote on it. So there's nothing to vote on. Okay?
Did you get the planning board recommendation, George?
Sure. See, we didn't get anybody to move it. Okay? All right, so there's nothing to vote on, yes or no? If nobody moves it. Okay, let's go on to the next one.
Okay, we have a resolution wanted on authorizing Jim to purchase a top steam generator for $160.
Somebody, I'll move it.
I'll second.
Okay, and that resolution authorizing the steam genny purchase, Supervisor Dino made the motion, seconded by Councilor Trombley. Roll call, Councilor Rovers.
Yes.
Councilor Spiegel.
Yes.
Councilor Devon. Councilor Trombley.
Yes.
Supervisor Dino.
Yes.
I believe that's all we have for resolution.
No, you got more.
Oh, yes.
Do you have the
I don't have it
information
in
on
here,
that,
but,
or is it? Whatever, she has it.
Okay, in fact, I think I added it to your sheet, and I didn't do mine. Resolutions. Well, anyway, it's a resolution to authorize the supervisor's office and town clerk's office to each add or renew their computer systems. We're both starting to have problems off and on, and been advised that we need to update them and get more memory, more hard drive. Got a quote today from Eastside Computer, whom we do business with, at a price of, I believe, $3,200 for the two of us. And we need to have take it out of the equipment reserve and do it as a permissive referendum. Supervisor Dino made the motion, seconded by Councilor Devon. on the purchase of the... How's that slide running? Roll call, Councilor Rover. Councilor Spiegel?
Yes.
Councilor Devlin?
Yes.
Councilor Trombley?
Yes.
Supervisor Dina?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 1 no, and 4 yes. That's all I have to-
Okay, what is it?
Excuse me, I'm a little slow, but does that mean that the town of Chazy is turning their back on the $2 million that was awarded to this farm for...
I don't think you got the point. There was no vote. We didn't say yes or no.
What is it? I mean, no, don't you say yes or no? What are you, ignoring it? Is that what you're doing, ignoring it?
There's nobody pushed the motion, so there was nobody to second.
I mean, which means it goes away. Is that what happens to it when nobody votes on it?
It might fade away.
It might fade away. And the town of Chazy is turning their back on the $2 million awarded to this gem of a farm in this community. Is that what's going on
Where do you want
here?
to look at it? We're not the final say. The county legislature.
The state and the
We had
county
nothing to do with this, except
started out with it first.
the county
They let
legislator is the one that puts it through, not us. But that doesn't mean he's dead. The county legislator puts this through.
Well, you're not supporting it, is that correct? You're not, nobody wants to support our neighbor with this money coming into our village? This $2 million?
They said they didn't come to a vote.
Why didn't somebody make a motion that this is a good thing? I mean, they saw the hands of all the people here. There were a lot of people who wanted it.
I don't know.
I mean, can I ask a reason why nobody voted? Is there any good reason why nobody voted and they turned their back on this money that's coming into this
It's
town?
because there was nothing to vote on. It was never brought up for, the resolution was never, no motion made, no second, but there's no vote.
Yeah,
I made one last month, and it didn't go through, nobody seconded it, and that's the way it goes, nobody voted on it.
So you're turning your back on that? Is that how it ends up?
That's maybe the way, if you want to think of it that way, go ahead, it's your privilege.
What's your name? My name is Richard Martin.
Well, as far as, the meeting is closed to the public meeting.
Okay, thank you for your time. I'm sorry to
Okay.
bother you. Oh, this guy's principal. I don't know what that's called. I never seen that.
Yep.
I do.
You got a lot.
I don't know. Always trying to cut down. Real